The incoming right-wing government is expected to cancel two reforms that were passed by the Change Bloc government in the last year. Yahadut Torah has already announced that they will cancel the tax on sweet drinks that are meant to keep the population healthy and prevent severe illnesses like diabetes. It also plans to cancel the tax on dispensable utensils and single-use plastics, although these pollute the lands and seas and will soon ensure that we have no fresh water or fresh air to breathe. And there are other issues that this government will have to tackle, economic issues, that is, rising housing prices, energy, global instability that has led to high inflation and in turn to interest increases that have made mortgages more expensive for people, mass congestion on the roads in Israel, questions about the light rail and the metro system in Tel Aviv, so many pending issues. And to tackle some of them, or at least to try and understand what this government might be doing in regards to those issues, we're joined by Professor Zvi Eckstein. He's the Dean of the Tionkin School of Economics at Reichman University and head of the Aaron Institute for Economic Policy at Reichman University. Thank you very much for being with us today,
Thank
Professor.
you. Thank you for having me. But I can talk about economics, not about politics.
You know, the two are intertwined, right? And also the
That's
environment.
true, but,
so I can ask what I want to ask and you can answer what you want to answer, of course. Let's start with the single-use plastics and the sweetened bottled drinks. Is the tax on those going to be canceled for sure? And what has been the significance of this tax for the government in terms of its revenues for this tax versus how much effect it has had on the population that it targeted?
And this is not a macro issue. This is an issue that came from mainly motivated from health issues and also from what we call modern economy that use less items that are not recycled. And so that has to do with those issues. And since there is a segment of the population who actually use them more and probably get more health issues there, they require that to be reversed. Maybe they will do a rethinking, but it's certainly not a macro issue and it's not an important issue for the revenues of the government.
Okay, let's talk about some important issues. One of them that everybody is concerned with, of course, is the rising inflation, the cost of goods that are increasing, and then the increase in interest rates. These are expected to continue into 2023. In terms of policy, do you see this government acting very differently to what the Change Bloc government has done in the last few months to tackle those issues?
I don't know of any program which is significant to change the fight in inflation. Inflation that is actually lower in Israel than in other countries is mainly the concern of the central bank, especially the items that went up recently, which are in what we call the core inflation, the overall inflation in Israel, and also the housing prices, which are contributing to the rising prices in Israel. Now, not necessarily inflation, as we call it, because it's
they're not part of the index, of course.
But it contributes through the housing prices affected the cost of selling goods, because the housing prices and the real estate prices affect the rental price of stores and so forth. That's certainly an issue that the government should have a long-term program. The previous government actually did a very significant policy impact by increasing dramatically the new rights to build. In Israel, the process is much longer than in most advanced countries. You need to get a permit, and once you get a permit, you need to have a plan. It takes about a year, and then building up, it takes about 30 months. So from the action taken in 2022 until we shall see the result in the housing prices will take something like at least 3 years.
And by then it will be a minister of probably from Yahadut Torah that will be cutting the red ribbon and will be enjoying the compliments for the achievements.
But then the question is that will continue. So what the government should do is really to incentivize the municipalities to increase the rights to have more housing. We need, actually, Israel is growing very fast, and there has been a lag in the housing building, and there are a lot of families which are really want to buy apartments and move to a permanent home, but they cannot because there was not enough building and the prices went up relative to their income. So they cannot get easily a mortgage, and mortgage rate went up dramatically. So the government, I think, should make a lot of efforts in increasing the supply of housing. That would be an important challenge. In addition, you mentioned the congestion on the road, which is, I think, is connected to this, is to have what we call a real good, high-quality public transportation. Israel is lagging behind most of our advanced countries in connecting the housing and the public transportation, and that generates a huge congestion, and time to work is among the slowest in advanced countries.
You know, Merav Michaeli, the exiting Minister of Transportation, announced that the light rail in Tel Aviv and in the Dan area will be operating on Saturdays. Miri Regev, who wants to become Minister of Transportation once again, has said that it will not operate on Saturdays. And I want to ask for your economic advice. What is the cost for the market for not operating it on Saturdays? Regardless, if we put aside what you mentioned about the need for people to travel, of course, from one place to another, and for homes to be connected to work facilities and offices, etc.
Usually the weekend is not the congested part, and the key impact of transportation is during the weekdays, where people go to work, going back to work, where services are provided to the business sector, where the business sector is distributing the goods and the inputs into the production of housing and the other items. So it's true in Israel, the issue on religious issues are getting a lot of the headlines, but in terms of the economic impact, the most important is not the transportation over the weekend, over the Saturday. Most important is over the weekdays, that they will have enough public transportation so the roads could serve better the other services that cannot be just people to work and people back from work.
I beg to differ. I beg to differ, Professor. When people cannot travel over the weekend with the light rail or with any sort of train that operates in Israel, then they are basically bound to have vehicles. They're bound to transportation in their own cars, which creates emissions, which consumes oil, which congests the roads, etc. You cannot just commute 5 days a week by train and then over the weekend be stuck at home.
I tell you that over the weekend, people in Israel, mostly they travel to the Negev, to the Galilee, and so forth. And those kind of trips in any place, even if you live in Boston and you want to do a ski in Vermont, or you want to do a hiking in Maine, or you go other places, you don't use public transportation. You use your cars. And then you get in the weekend use of cars. The light rail and so forth is mainly in the city, and that everywhere is very low use of public transportation over the weekend in countries that don't have restriction in Israel. What I want to say is that what is most important economically is to generate high quality public transportation, so we reach about 40% of the people in the metropolitan areas go to work and using public transportation and reducing the congestion on the main road. And even if we do all the planning, it would continue to drive a car. And if you have a car for the weekend, you will not necessarily use it over the week to go to work, which, in the US, in the Europe, many people do that. I mean, there are some cities that they just rent a car for the weekend. But the key is during the week.
Yeah. There are car sharing options also in Tel Aviv, for example. Yeah. A word before we part, Professor, about COP27 and the economics of eternal growth that we are all addicted to in our economies. Is it time that Israel reconsiders the fundamentals to ensure that environmental and social stability is something that stays in place for the coming generations?
Oh, sure. I mean, there are two issues in Israel: is to keep up growth rates to match the high quality of living on advanced countries in the Europe or US, etc. Israel is still lagging behind in terms of GDP per capita. Also, Israel is lagging behind in terms of the size of poverty in Israel. I mean, we are way behind on that, and certainly the challenge of having a high GDP per capita is connected with pushing the ultra-Orthodox and the Arab population into work and into a high-quality work with providing a high human capital to be involved in all the jobs they are doing and really pushing the economy forward.
But according to scientists, if we grow year on year by 3%, which is considered to be a healthy economy, in 24 years, our economy will be producing twice as much as we do today. Aren't we pushing the boundaries of this country and of the planet?
No, I don't think so. I think Israel is a country that could grow to a population, given that we have the size of Israel, we can really reach a population of 16 million within the next 25 years. The key danger is that we leave the population which are growing fast, like especially the ultra-Orthodox, without having the human capital to really being able to provide high-quality jobs and high income for them and for the country. And certainly, if we are able to provide that human capital and that they will study the main mathematics and English and other terms that would enable them to be in the high-quality professions, they would certainly push the economy to be an advanced economy. And a larger economy is actually function better economically. And you can see that the larger cities in the world are the cities which are life is the best among other cities. Some people like to be in the periphery. That's also possible in Israel. So I don't see this claim. I think in the next 20 years, even if we grow on a 1.7, 1.8%, we can certainly provide high quality of life, both in terms of income and in terms of the environment, if we do take the action that is needed to do that. And in particular, the key important is the investment in infrastructure, in public transportation, in housing, and in human capital.
Professor Zvi Eckstein, Tionkin School of Economics at Reichman University, thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.